The story opens with a glimpse into a future ravaged by destruction. The world, once thriving, now lies in ruins, buildings toppled, the ground scarred, and a sense of despair hangs in the air. Amidst this apocalyptic backdrop, a colossal centipede-like monster looms menacingly. Facing this terrifying creature is a lone man, standing his ground against overwhelming odds, prepared to fight despite the futility. In the midst of this chaotic vision, a voice calls out from the void. Lu Shang, Lu Shang. The name echoes, pulling him back from the brink of terror. Lu Shang awakens with a start, drenched in sweat. His surroundings shift from the battlefield of his nightmare to the ultra-familiar confines of his classroom. The harsh voice of his teacher continues, scolding him as laughter erupts from his classmates. He has fallen asleep in class against something that has become far too common. Embarrassed and disoriented, Lu Shang sits silently as the ridicule washes over him. As class ends, his friend Liu Qiming approaches with a cheerful attitude. He suggests they hang out and play games outside, trying to lighten Lu Shang's mood. But Lu Shang declines the offer. His mind is still entangled in the remnants of the terrifying dream. The vivid images and emotions linger, refusing to fade. With a heavy heart and a distant gaze, Lu Shang begins walking home alone, his thoughts consumed by what he saw. Upon reaching home, a modest and humble dwelling, he finds a familiar but heart-wrenching sight. His mother is gently applying medicinal plasters to his father's back, her movements careful and practiced. The room is filled with quiet determination and silent sacrifice. Though their family lives in poverty, his parents never once let that hardship interfere with their commitment to Lu Shang's education. Watching them, Lu Shang feels a pang of sorrow. Their sacrifices weigh heavily on him, reminding him of how much they give up so that he can attend school and chase a future they hope will be brighter. He heads to his room, and despite his exhaustion, begins his nightly routine of practicing. A self-developed martial arts regimen, improvised series of movements he believes will strengthen his body and mind. As he trains, he reflects on the world they live in, a place where human beings can unlock extraordinary martial arts capabilities, enhancing their physical prowess to superhuman levels. However, for most, this remains a distant dream that only the truly gifted or privileged can achieve. Fatigued from his training, Lu Shang finally collapses onto his bed and drifts into sleep once more. The nightmare returns, unrelenting. In this dream world, the monstrous invasion continues. Creatures beyond comprehension attack mercilessly. Lu Shang, again caught in the chaos, finds himself face to face with a zombie-like enemy. Desperately, he uses the movements from his basic training to fight back, but it's not enough. He struggles, overwhelmed by the strength and resilience of the creature. Still, with sheer willpower, he manages to defeat the zombie by slamming it repeatedly with a large stone. As the zombie falls, its body begins to disintegrate into a mysterious mist. That strange energy flows toward Lu Shang, enveloping him. Suddenly, his mind is flooded with foreign memories, fragments of thought and sensation that do not belong to him. He realizes these are the lingering thoughts of the zombie he just defeated. The experience is overwhelming and confusing, but strangely enlightening. Before he can fully comprehend what has happened, more zombies emerge from the shadows. They rush toward him with terrifying speed. Lu Shang braces for death, but then something unexpected happens. His body moves faster, hits harder. A surge of power he has never felt before flows through him. He realizes somehow, by absorbing the essence of the zombie, he has inherited a portion of its strength. As he continues to fend off the monsters with this newfound power, a thought forms in his mind. Could this dream be more than just a nightmare? Is it possible that by defeating these creatures, he gains their strength and their memories? And if so, what lies at the end of this terrifying path? For now, Lu Shang stands in the dream world, stronger than before, yet still uncertain of what this mysterious power truly means. One thing is clear, his journey has just begun. Lu Shang could hardly believe what he had just experienced. The memories, the strange power, the unfamiliar techniques, none of it made sense. A mixture of awe and confusion overwhelmed him. His breathing was still heavy, and his heart pounded with emotions he couldn't quite name. It felt too real to be just a dream. Yet the world around him had shifted back to quiet reality. Suddenly, the sharp sound of knocking echoed from his door. Knock, knock, knock. Lu Shang stirred and slowly opened his eyes. The dream faded away, replaced by the dim lighting of his room. At the door stood his younger sister Lu Qing, calling him for dinner. As the door opened further, she paused and looked at him with surprise. Something about Lu Shang was different. His body, though not bulky, now had well-defined muscle lines and an aura of strength she hadn't seen before. His sister, slightly wide-eyed, commented on his appearance. Even Lu Sheng was caught off guard. His physique had clearly changed. After she left, Lu Sheng stood in front of the mirror. He moved into a basic combat stance and began testing some of the moves he had performed in the dream. Punches, dodges, shifts in weight, everything felt sharper and smoother. His body responded better than it ever had before. The martial techniques from the dream. They had indeed transferred over somehow. Impossibly, he had brought part of that world into this one. Still processing what had happened, Lu Sheng eventually went downstairs and joined his family for dinner. He ate with unusual appetite, consuming his meal quickly and with focus. The exertion, the energy consumed in the dream, it felt as though it had been real, and his body was now demanding nourishment to recover from it. After finishing his meal, Lu Sheng made his way to the martial arts hall. It was a local center where martial artists trained and tested their blood ketha, internal energy vital for advanced martial abilities. However, the hall was known for its expensive education. High-level martial arts training wasn't accessible to just anyone. Upon entering, Lu Sheng was approached by the receptionist, who noticed his interest. She offered him the opportunity to enroll in their paid training program. Without hesitation, Lu Sheng declined. He wasn't there to study. He only wanted to take the blood key test, one of the few services offered free of charge. He was led to the testing device. Placing his hand on it, he waited as the machine measured the level of his internal energy. Moments later, the number appeared, 0.963, a clear increase from the average. Lu Sheng felt a swell of pride. The dream, the strength, the training was all real, at least, real enough to raise his blood key level in the waking world. Encouraged by the result, he moved on to the strength testing device. He clenched his fist, took a stance, and unleashed a solid punch onto the sensor. The result, 113. Another improvement. His physical power had risen significantly. Satisfied, he left the martial arts hall and returned home. The night fell quietly, but Lu Sheng was anything but calm. Lying in bed, he tossed and turned. No matter how hard he tried, sleep wouldn't come. His mind was racing, his body restless. Annoyed by his insomnia, he sat up and decided to focus. His thoughts, he recalled the zombie from the dream, the way it moved, the way it fought, the techniques, the postures. These weren't random. They were refined, precise, as if they belonged to someone who had once been a martial artist before becoming a monster. Lu Sheng stood and began carefully reenacting those movements. Move by move, he reconstructed what he saw. Every motion felt intuitive, as though his body remembered what his mind did not. These techniques, they were real, and they had once belonged to the life that zombie had lived. In that moment, Lu Sheng realized the true potential of what he had gained. He wasn't just dreaming, he was inheriting a legacy, one fight, one memory at a time. Lu Sheng continued to move deep into the night, silently repeating the movements he had inherited from the dream, the techniques, the forms, the martial flow from that mysterious zombie's past life. Each repetition felt more natural than the last, his body adapting with uncanny speed. Hours passed in quiet focus, his room lit only by the soft glow of the moon outside. But eventually, hunger struck fierce and sudden. His stomach growled violently, and he clutched it in surprise. It wasn't just the usual hunger from missed meals. This was something deeper, almost primal. His body now required more energy, much more. The strengthening of his physique, the increase in blood ki, the advanced martial movements. It was all taking a toll. He realized with some concern that his current form demanded greater nutritional support to maintain and continue evolving. As he quickly devoured what food he could find in the house, a new thought formed in his mind. If his body was changing, and his skills were improving, wasn't it time to show it? Could he finally be of real use in school sports, in martial arts class? And more than that, maybe it was finally time for people to recognize who he was. The next day, school resumed, as usual, but there was something different in the air. It was the start of martial arts training sessions, an important part of the curriculum for cultivating future martial artists. Students buzzed with excitement and tension as they gathered in the training hall. The class was led by none other than Zhang Jiangwo, a seasoned martial arts instructor with sharp eyes and a commanding presence. He began the session by giving the class instructions, basic principles, proper posture, breathing techniques. Then, to demonstrate more advanced forms, he called forward one of the most well-known students in school. Ye Fei. Ye Fei was widely admired for his skill, confidence, and strength. When he stepped forward, the air seemed to shift. He began showcasing several martial techniques under the teacher's guidance, fluid, precise, and strong. The students watched closely, impressed by his talent and grace. After a few demonstrations, Master Zhang nodded in approval. Then, he turned toward the crowd of students. He wanted to conduct a light sparring session, one-on-one supervised. He called for volunteers to step forward. His gaze scanned the group, then stopped. His eyes locked onto Lu Sheng. There was something in Lu Sheng's expression, calm, unwavering, and sharp like a blade. The teacher noticed it immediately. He raised his hand and pointed. "You, step forward." Gasps echoed among the students. Lu Sheng, the quiet one. Was he really going to face Ye? Beside him, Lu Qiminghe's friend hurriedly tried to intervene. "Lu Sheng, don't do it. You don't have to force yourself." But Lu Sheng shook his head and gave Qiming a small, reassuring smile. "Don't worry, I've got this." The teacher gave the signal, and both students moved to the center of the hall. The room grew silent. Yifei took the first stance, confident and relaxed. The teacher gave them a final instruction: begin. Yifei attacked first, a sharp, quick punch aimed at Lu Sheng's upper body. But Lu Sheng moved effortlessly. He dodged with minimal motion, as if he had seen the attack before it even started. Gasps again. Murmurs spread across the class. Yifei narrowed his eyes, now taking the match more seriously. Then it was Lu Sheng's turn. He stepped forward, calmly, his right fist clenched, his stance grounded. He struck. The punch landed cleanly, direct, precise, devastating. The impact echoed across the room. Yifei's body was thrown backward. He crashed into a group of students watching from the side, knocking several of them over. The room fell into complete silence. Eyes widened, mouths opened. One strike. Just one dot. Lu Sheng had ended the match in a single blow. For a moment, no one moved. Even the teacher stood frozen. Then, slowly, the silence broke into shocked whispers. Lu Sheng didn't say a word. He stood where he was, calm and composed, while the entire class watched him with disbelief and awe. Something had changed, and everyone knew it. The crowd had barely recovered from their shock when Yifei, after flying across the room and crashing into the watching students, tried to push himself up, but failed. His arms trembled, his body weak. The punch from Lu Sheng had done more than just knock the wind out of him. It had completely overwhelmed his system. Within moments, his eyes rolled back, and he lost consciousness. A few teachers and staff rushed in. A stretcher was brought, and Yifei was carefully lifted onto it. The murmurs in the crowd turned into low panic. Students stared at Lu Sheng like he was a different species. No one had ever imagined that quiet Lu Sheng, the boy they barely noticed, could take down someone as skilled as Yif with a single blow. Amid the tension, Instructor Zhang narrowed his eyes. He gestured firmly toward Lu Sheng. "You, come with me." There was no room for refusal. Lu Sheng followed the teacher silently, though inside he felt a flicker of unease. Did he go too far? Was he going to be punished? They arrived at the instructor's office, and for a brief moment, silence filled the room. Lu Sheng stood straight, trying to remain calm. Master Zhang didn't scold him. Instead, he gestured to the blood key measuring device. "Place your hand there," he said. Lu Sheng hesitated for a moment, then stepped forward and did as told. The machine activated. The number appeared on the screen, 1.532. Even Lu Sheng was stunned. His key had increased drastically since his last test. Instructor Zhang's eyes widened in disbelief. 1.5 at your age? He was silent for a long while, processing what he had just seen. Then, without warning, he turned to grab something, but his movement accidentally bumped a nearby punching bag. Lu Sheng, out of instinct, and with a need to release tension, struck it. The force of his punch sent the bag flying, straight into the bonsai tree on the windowsill. It shattered. Instructor Zhang's jaw dropped. "That was my bonsai," he muttered, staring at the broken pot and scattered soil with a mix of sorrow and disbelief. Still recovering from the shock, Zhang sat down and sighed deeply. He looked at Lu Sheng again. "There's a saying," he began slowly, "that to defeat a monster, you need a monster." His gaze was heavy with meaning. "Lu Sheng, you're becoming something beyond the ordinary. What you carry inside you, it's powerful, dangerous, even, but it's exactly the kind of strength humanity needs to survive." Then, with a nod, he continued, "I can no longer teach you properly. What you need now is a master far more talented than me." He offered Lu Sheng a recommendation, an opportunity to train under someone who could guide his unique development. Someone suited to handle a talent of his caliber. Lu Sheng bowed respectfully and expressed his sincere gratitude as he turned and left the room. Instructor Zhang watched him go with a strange mix of pride and excitement. A smile slowly formed on his face. With a student like him, the school has nothing to fear. He leaned back in his chair, muttering under his breath, "Yes, he can go to that place. A few days later, Lu Sheng found himself walking through the bustling aisles of a shopping center. The place was full of life, families smiling, children dragging their parents excitedly from store to store, people chatting as they made purchases without worry. Colorful advertisements beamed from digital screens, showcasing the latest martial arts gear, ki-enhancing supplements, and advanced training equipment. Everywhere he looked, there was comfort, ease, and wealth. He stood still for a moment, watching as a father casually handed over his card to purchase a bottle of strength-enhancing supplement for his son, something small, trivial for them, but far out of reach for people like Lu Sheng. His chest tightened slightly. Just days ago, he had still been an amateur martial artist, unknown, struggling, and while he had certainly changed since then, the memories of that struggle were still fresh, still heavy. A bitter thought passed through his mind. How easy it is, for others. He turned his eyes to the ground. He wasn't only thinking about himself. His heart ached for someone else, his little sister, Lu King. In his eyes, a true genius. Smart, capable, and filled with potential. But fate had not been kind. She had a brother like him, someone who, until recently, had nothing. Nothing to offer, nothing to give. Someone who could only hold her back. He clenched his fists. It felt like he was trapped. A fish swimming in a shallow, murky pond, yearning for the vast ocean beyond, always blocked, always held down by invisible barriers. But now, things were different. He had something no one else had, a mysterious dream world, a brutal but transformative realm where he could level up, where he could grow stronger with each battle, each lesson carved into his body and soul. That night, he returned to sleep with determination in his heart, and, once again, the dream came. He stood now near what looked like a military base, ancient and crumbling, but still surrounded by high, thick walls. The structure looked like a fortress from a long-lost era, one built to withstand catastrophe. Lu Sheng approached carefully, curious and cautious. As he searched for a way in through the cracks and gaps in the concrete wall, something caught his attention, a presence. From the shadows beyond the breach emerged a zombie unlike any he had seen before. It didn't move immediately, but it exuded a presence and aura so powerful, so dangerous, that it made Lu Sheng's body stiffen. His breath caught in his throat, his heart pounded. He hadn't even fought yet, but his will to fight began to waver. It was as if the mere existence of that creature could drain his courage. His instincts screamed at him, "This one is different. Don't engage." He backed away slowly. There had to be another way in, another path, a way to grow stronger without charging headfirst into death. Moving with caution, Lu Sheng circled the compound, eventually finding a less guarded entryway. Inside, he began clearing out smaller groups of undead, less dangerous but manageable. His skills continued to sharpen, his movements more refined. Eventually, he stumbled into a room, dark and sealed. Inside, he found a strange machine, something he couldn't immediately recognize. It looked ancient, technological, yet almost alien. His curiosity got the better of him, and he reached out, brushing his fingers against its smooth surface. Suddenly, the device lit up. A holographic image flickered to life before him, an elegant woman, shimmering in translucent blue light. Her clothes were futuristic, military in design, and her posture was proud, like a commanding officer. Then she spoke, and Lu Sheng froze. The language she used, it was the same language he spoke. The realization struck him like lightning. This world, this place, this dream, it was connected to his world in ways far deeper than he had imagined. Lu Sheng stood silently, the soft blue glow of the hologram casting shifting shadows across his face. His eyes were still wide, heart heavy with the revelation he had just received. The air was quiet, thick with the weight of truth. The AI, longer just a machine, but something deeper hovered calmly before him. His mind worked furiously to process everything. This wasn't just a vision or a hallucination. It was real. The data, the devastation, the world he knew decayed, buried, forgotten beneath 10,000 years of ruin. And now, Shai as his guide, at his silent acceptance, AI activated its archive. The air around him shimmered as countless windows of information opened in layers. Martial arts forms, cultivation systems, energy manipulation diagrams, battle footage, and combat techniques spun slowly, like ancient knowledge floating through space. There were names of long-forgotten martial masters, techniques that could split mountains, and paths of bloodline evolution that went far beyond his current understanding. Among them was a category that caught his attention: level 10 martial artists, the pinnacle of human combat potential. Yet even they had failed to protect the world from what came. It was a sobering reminder. Power alone was not enough. Then came the history. earth-shattering in its simplicity. This wasn't another world. This was Earth, his Earth, projected 10,000 years into the future. The monstrous apocalypse that haunted his dreams was not fiction. It was a future he would one day inherit. The timeline was shown in detail. Cities destroyed, kingdoms crumbled, civilization hanging by threads. The martial path had advanced far beyond anything his era had ever imagined, but it still wasn't enough to save them. Humanity had become fierce, but not victorious. Curious. Lu Sheng asked the AI if there was any information on himself. The system searched and eventually returned with a profile. A digital window appeared before him, containing a fragmented record, sparse data, training logs, school history, basic notes, and then he saw it. Deceased age 28. Lu Sheng's breath caught. He stared at that single line, emotions twisting inside him. That was supposed to be his fate. A life cut short before its prime. He asked for more access, but the system required his blood. Without hesitation, he offered his finger. AI, instead of using a sterile method, oddly leaned forward and bit his finger gently, an almost comical gesture amidst the tension. Blood sample accepted. The atmosphere shifted. The AI systems reacted immediately to the sample. Her visual projection adjusted, her tone became more fluid, her presence more refined. Around them, the holographic interface expanded again, this time unlocking deeply restricted archives. The change happened fast. A new file loaded his updated profile. His photo, once lifeless, was now replaced by a determined face, glowing with new purpose. The death age disappeared, replaced by a branching timeline. The future had changed. AI confirmed it. By coming into contact with this projection of the future, Lu Sheng had disrupted the natural flow of time. The original course, his death at 28, had been broken, but even with that knowledge, he wasn't satisfied. The techniques were powerful, the access was valuable, but the hunger inside him burned hotter than ever. What he had seen, what he now knew, it wasn't enough, not yet. This glimpse of the future was both a blessing and a curse. He couldn't go back to being ordinary. He couldn't allow this information to be wasted. He was no longer just a struggling martial arts student in a poor family. He was someone who had stared into the abyss of humanity's end and lived to tell the tale. And now, he had the chance to become something else entirely. He looked at the ruined base, the broken past, the shattered legacy of a dying world, but also the tools, the path, the awakening. In that moment, he didn't speak. He didn't scream or shout. He simply clenched his fists, feeling the weight of fate settle on his shoulders. This was no longer just about surviving. It was about rising. Lu Sheng had seen the end, and now he would fight to rewrite everything. Not for glory, not for revenge, but because the world needed something greater, and he would become it. Morning came quietly, washing over the city in soft golden light. In the modest home where Lu Sheng lived, the day began like any other. The scent of warm porridge filled the air, and the clatter of bowls echoed in the small kitchen. He sat at the table with his family, his mother gently smiling, his father quiet and reserved, and his younger sister Lu King watching him closely. She tilted her head slightly, frowning as she observed her brother. There was something different about him today, something subtle, yet impossible to miss. He looked calm. His aura had shifted, no longer the anxious, overthinking youth. Now, he radiated a strange tranquility, mysterious and composed, as if he had been through lifetimes of change in the span of a night. After the meal, Lu Sheng quietly excused himself and returned to his room. Moments later, his communicator lit up. It was a call from Instructor Zheng, his martial arts teacher. Without waiting for pleasantries, Lu Sheng answered in a flat, cold tone, simply said he had no time to waste on idle talk. Before the teacher could even reply, he ended the call. It wasn't arrogance. It was clarity. He no longer had time for distractions. The gap between the present and the future was too great, and he needed to close it fast. As night approached again, he re-entered the dreamscape, a realm that was no longer just a recurring nightmare, but a bridge between two timelines. This time, he had a purpose. He called out to the AI and posed a direct question. Is there any martial art that involves the Tao? AI responded instantly, processing trillions of data points before projecting a comprehensive display of information. The content expanded into the air around him, revealing ancient Taoist cultivation methods, obscure texts, energy channeling pathways, and spiritual visualization systems, wisdom far beyond his age and experience. Yet Lu Sheng remained composed. He wasn't interested in the inaccessible or impossible. He asked AI to filter techniques that were level 1, foundational, those that could be learned without requiring wealth, rare materials, or powerful lineage. In other words, things he could cultivate through effort and bodily discipline alone. The AI responded with precision. 3 techniques surfaced from the sea of knowledge: breathing technique, to regulate inner ki, circulate energy, and strengthen vitality; visual focus technique, a meditative method to visualize one's inner world and spiritual landscape; recovery technique, a passive form of self-healing that sped up physical and energy regeneration. They were simple, ancient, almost forgotten by the higher realms of cultivation in the future, but hidden beneath their simplicity was a power that could evolve. Each of them came with embedded data progression paths, level markers, and their maximum potential. All 3 had one surprising detail: they could be cultivated up to level 11. That was unheard of in his current era, where level 9 was considered the ceiling. Lu Shang didn't hesitate. He dove into the practice, memorizing the breathing patterns, mimicking the visualizations, and learning the recovery cycles. Each technique had been encoded directly into his consciousness, provided through the advanced Neuralink interface that the AI established. When he practiced the visual technique, something unusual happened. He was pulled into an endless void, vast, silent cosmos, stretching into infinity. Floating in this dark universe, he saw himself, his body outlined in luminous ki, still and centered, surrounded by star-like specks of energy. It wasn't just a training realm, it felt divine. He realized then that these techniques were more than just physical. They aligned with Taoist philosophy, rooted in cosmic balance and inner harmony. They weren't meant for brute force, they were tools of spiritual awakening and long-term transformation. And when he awoke, he wasn't surprised anymore. As expected, his physical body had responded. His skin was coated in a layer of expelled from deep within his muscles and organs. Another round of internal cleansing. His ki had improved again. The dream realm was no longer a mystery. It was his second life. Now dressed and fresh, he began contemplating something bold. If he had access to 10,000 years of medical evolution, then the pharmacology of this age was like using stone tools. He thought about the herbs, tonics, and formulas he had seen in the archive, formulas that could reshape the human body, purge impurities, even extend lifespan. His thoughts wandered to the medical system of the present. It was inefficient, outdated, but what if he could create something from the future, using knowledge from that ruined world, and apply it in this one? It would change everything. From a powerless student in a struggling family, he was now on the path to revolutionizing medicine, reshaping martial arts, and rewriting the fate of humanity itself. 2 days of absence from school had stirred questions, especially from instructor Zhang. When Lu Shang finally returned, he was quickly intercepted. The teacher didn't hesitate to voice his concern. With a slightly raised tone, he reminded Lu Shang to inform him directly next time he planned to disappear for multiple days. Though his words were strict, they carried genuine worry. He asked if Lu Shang had been doing well these past 2 days. Lu Shang, composed and calm, nodded and explained little, hiding the immense progress he had made during that time. Understanding that Lu Shang had found some serious motivation, Zhang didn't press further. Instead, perhaps sensing the weight behind his silence, he handed Lu Shang a sum of money, an unexpected gesture of support. Though modest in amount, it was enough to fund a small step forward. With that, Lu Shang's thoughts raced. He was ready to begin translating the medicinal knowledge from the dream world into his own reality, with formulas and principles from 10,000 years into the future swirling in his mind. He only needed a place, a laboratory, to begin. He first tried visiting an old lab facility he'd heard of, one run by a reclusive elder known for strict standards. But when Lu Shang arrived and knocked on the gate, he was promptly turned away. The door nearly slammed in his face. The old man had no patience for amateurs or students. Disheartened but not defeated, Lu Shang wandered through a network of backstreets far from the city center. As he walked, thoughts of failure buzzed in his head like static. Then, by chance, his eyes caught something unusual. A building tucked between empty lots. Its faded signage, barely visible, a privately owned lab. Curious, he approached the entrance and stepped inside. The interior was cluttered and dimly lit. Behind the counter sat a young man, around Lu Shang's age, completely disengaged. The boy was glued to his phone, grinning foolishly at a picture of a pretty girl on his screen. Oblivious to his surroundings, Lu Shang stood still for a moment, unimpressed by the poor service. He cleared his throat. No response. Finally, with a sharper tone and an intimidating presence, he called out, this time making sure the boy knew he wasn't a random visitor. The energy shifted. The young man flinched, startled. Awkwardly, he put away his phone and muttered an unenthusiastic welcome. Lu Sheng didn't bother with pleasantries. He declared that he wasn't just here for a one-time visit, he intended to do business. Reluctantly, the boy explained the lab's basic rules and pricing model. It was a pay-per-hour facility with minimal supervision. Most renters used it for small-scale chemistry or pharmaceutical testing. After some short back and forth, they reached an agreement. Without wasting time, Lu Sheng rented a workspace and quickly began setting up the materials based on his memory from the AI archive. He carefully followed each step, reconstructing ingredients and chemical ratios used in future medicine with the limited tools of the present. Bottles clinked, powders mixed, and the aroma of herbs filled the air. After several tries and adjustments, Lu Sheng finally held a vial containing a murky, light blue liquid, his first prototype. With a steady breath, he took the concoction. At first, nothing happened. His body felt the same. He frowned slightly, wondering if he had made a mistake. But then, an intense surge had hit him, like a tidal wave rushing through his veins. Pulsing through his bones, his vision swam. His knees nearly buckled. Sweat poured from his temples as his body tried to recalibrate to the sudden influx of energy. The sensation was overwhelming, so potent that he almost blacked out on the spot. He grabbed the table for support, heart pounding like thunder. Just then, the young man who had been ignoring him earlier rushed over in a panic. His phone now forgotten, he looked nervous, terrified. Even in a hushed tone, he warned Lu Sheng that he had to leave immediately. The reason? The boss lady was on her way. Apparently, the real owner of the lab, his mother, had returned, and she was strict beyond reason, terrified of getting scolded for allowing an unsupervised visitor to use the lab. The boy begged Lu Sheng to pack up and go. Still lightheaded from the effects of the prototype, Lu Sheng agreed. He grabbed his notes, secured the remaining materials, and exited the back door just moments before a sleek black car pulled up outside. From the passenger side, the door opened. A woman stepped out, tall, graceful, and elegant, with short hair and sharp eyes. Her figure was slender and poised, exuding confidence and control. She closed the car door with practiced ease and walked toward the entrance, unaware that just moments before, someone inside had glimpsed the future of medicine. After Lu Sheng had left the laboratory, barely recovering from the overwhelming effects of his own future-based concoction, .com returned to the quiet space, but only briefly. Moments later, the true owner of the lab arrived. Hisusu, the young woman who had just stepped out of the elegant black car, walked into her family-owned facility with a tense expression. Her heels echoed against the tile floor as she entered the main chamber and sighed heavily. She wasn't in the best mood. Despite inheriting the lab from her father, Hisusu was deeply aware of her own limitations. She had yet to create a truly impressive or breakthrough medicinal formula. The pressure to succeed was mounting, not only from the weight of the lab's legacy, but from her father's high expectations. To her, it all felt premature. Her skills were still growing. Her knowledge was solid, but not groundbreaking. And in quiet moments, she wondered if she was really cut out for this path. She had even been seriously considering quitting and accepting an offer from a more established pharmacy, one headed by none other than Mr. Zhang, a man she once trained under briefly. At least there, she could contribute in peace, away from the pressure of ownership. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. When Hisusu returned to her private lab space and opened the door, her expression twisted into frustration. The room was in disarray. Someone had clearly used it in her absence. The equipment had been shifted, glassware used, and strange, unfamiliar compounds had been mixed. She stormed out and scolded the assistant, Ma Fei, with visible fury. Her words were sharp and unforgiving. He stood still, eyes wide, as she unleashed her frustration. After all, this wasn't the first time he had slacked off but letting a stranger in. Unforgivable. Ma Fei tried to explain, but his stammering only made it worse. Hisusu, still fuming, marched back into the lab with the intent of cleaning it out herself. She picked up the leftover vials, some half-filled, some nearly empty. Her hand hovered over one particularly murky sample. Something about it felt off. Out of curiosity, on some professional instinct, she dipped her finger into a small amount and tasted it. The effect was almost immediate. Her pupils dilated, a powerful sensation coursed through her body, a clean, intense wave of vitality. She stood frozen, stunned, as her mind tried to comprehend what just happened. Her body's reaction told her everything she needed to know. This wasn't amateur work. What had just passed her lips was not a failed experiment or reckless mixture. It was a prototype medicine of astounding quality. It surpassed anything she had seen. perhaps even more advanced than anything currently being produced on the market. For a moment, she was speechless. Outside, Mafea was still sulking from his scolding. Muttering under his breath, he cursed Lu Sheng's name, calling him a jinx, a walking headache who brought nothing but trouble. But before he could finish his grumbling, he heard the door slam open again. Isusu had come out at full speed, her face flushed with urgency. She called out to him loudly, startling him. Mafei turned, hearing his name shouted in a way he hadn't expected. Her tone was sharp but not angry, desperate maybe, but to him it felt different. Something in her voice made his heart skip, and for a split second, he misinterpreted her urgency. He thought maybe she had changed her mind about him, that maybe her scolding had been a test of loyalty. Maybe she had seen his value after all. As she ran toward him, he smiled awkwardly, ready to say something poetic and foolish. But her words crushed his fantasy. She grabbed him by the sleeve and demanded that he call the person who had used the lab earlier, immediately. Still flustered, Ma Fei nodded and fumbled for his phone. Back at his home, Lu Sheng was fully immersed in training. The new strength coursing through his body from the medicine had amplified his senses and discipline. His strikes were sharper, his focus tighter. He was learning to control this evolving power one breath at a time. Suddenly, his phone rang, expecting a call from school or maybe Instructor Zheng. He didn't check the ID before answering. To his surprise, the voice on the other end was unfamiliar and female. She introduced herself directly and with authority. "My name is Isusu. I'm the head of Xingsantiang Laboratory." Her tone was calm but commanding. She requested a formal meeting with him in 1 week to discuss the formula and his intentions. It was a short call, professional, not overly polite. Lu Sheng barely had time to respond before the line disconnected. Meanwhile, Ma Fei, now back beside her, nervously awaited her next orders. She turned to him and asked about the boy who had made the medicine. She wanted to know more: his name, his background, his lab license. To her shock, Ma Fei could only mutter awkwardly, "He's just some student. Actually, not even from university. He's my age. Just a little younger, maybe."
What?
Isusu froze, processing his words. She had assumed that someone capable of creating such a powerful prototype would be an expert, perhaps a rogue researcher or an ex-pharmacist. But the truth was more surprising. The one who had created that formula was nothing more than a teenage boy, a self-taught fighter, a student with mysterious knowledge, far beyond his years. And she suddenly realized this might be the start of something much, much bigger. That night, in the world between sleep and reality, Lu Sheng once again entered the mysterious realm of his subconscious, a battlefield forged from the echoes of an ancient, advanced civilization. This time, however, the opponent that awaited him was no mindless zombie or wandering shade. Standing before him was a formidable warrior, exuding a pressure that suggested he had once been a stage 4 martial artist before death claimed him. The clash between them was intense. Every exchange of fists shook the air like thunderclaps. Every strike matched with flawless counters. Lu Sheng, still adapting to the overwhelming strength within him, was pushed to his limit. But rather than panic, he adapted. Every second of the fight honed his instincts sharper. Muscle memory from thousands of years of martial techniques engraved in this realm fused with his own determination. Eventually, after a brutal and exhausting battle, Lu Sheng emerged victorious, bloodied, panting, but undeniably stronger. When he awoke, his body ached, but he could feel the tangible improvement. The pulse of qi in his veins was heavier, deeper. He was evolving. The next morning he made his way to the martial arts hall. The air inside was cool and sharp with the scent of sweat, disinfectant, and steel. Walking calmly to the front desk, he greeted the receptionist with casual ease. "Could I use one of the test rooms?" he asked, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his lips. The receptionist glanced up, recognizing him. With a joking tone, he teased, "Back again. Don't break the machines this time." After some light-hearted banter, Lu Sheng was assigned a private test chamber. Inside, the familiar equipment hummed softly under fluorescent lighting. He approached the key meter first and placed his hand on the scanning stone. The screen blinked rapidly, and then the number appeared: :15.6. He exhaled, slowly, pride swelling in his chest. It was an enormous leap from his last measurement, nearly inconceivable for someone of his age. He turned next to the strength testing pillar, a reinforced device that measured the force behind one's punches. He clenched his fists, grounded his stance, and delivered a clean strike. Bang! The meter surged, stopping at 3,137. Even Lu Sheng was stunned for a moment. He stared at the numbers, breathing heavily. but something within him whispered that this wasn't even close to his full strength. Not yet. He reset his stance, and this time summoned more than just strength. He gathered his ki, layered it with his fighting spirit, and unleashed a punch with genuine intent. The air around his body shimmered faintly, his aura blooming like a silent explosion. The scene abruptly shifted moments later. Lu Sheng was seen exiting the test room, expression unreadable, but eyes filled with quiet intensity. The receptionist greeted him again, and they shared a few casual words. Nothing in his demeanor betrayed what had just happened inside. At the same time, another group entered the hall. Nishwang, daughter of the influential director of the Hongchuan group, stepped through the entrance with effortless grace. Dressed sharply, she walked with a calm composure that turned heads. Behind her, Lanner, her younger sister, trailed along. Lanner, far less restrained, wore the arrogance of a child, born to power. She was proud, outspoken, and not afraid to let people know she came from wealth. Though she deeply admired her older sister, their relationship was often marked by playful violence. Shuang wasn't shy about disciplining her when she stepped out of line. As they passed the lobby, Lanner's eyes wandered. She caught a glimpse of a young man leaving one of the test rooms. That guy? I want to see his results, she murmured with curiosity. Nishwang, mildly entertained, approached the receptionist and casually inquired about the last person who used the test room. Her tone was light, but her curiosity genuine. The receptionist, still smiling, handed her a tablet and said, "Actually, only one person used the test room today. These are his results." Nishwang glanced at the screen. Her calm expression suddenly froze. Her eyes scanned the numbers again. Only one person. She instinctively looked toward the young man who had just walked out, Lu Sheng. Though neither of them knew the other's name yet, in that moment she realized she had just brushed past someone extraordinary. Someone who, just like her, stood at the very edge of the current era's limits, and maybe even beyond. The engine of the taxi gave a soft hum as it came to a stop in front of a large, official-looking building. Lu Sheng stepped out calmly, dressed in simple clothes, his expression steady and composed. His eyes rose to observe the signage of the building. It was the headquarters of the Martial Arts Association. This was the place where martial artists of various levels came to test their strength, prove their worth, and obtain certification for their progress. Today, Lu Sheng had come to participate in the Level 2 Martial Arts certification. The moment he stepped inside the association hall, he was greeted by the buzz of activity. The space was already crowded with martial artists from various backgrounds, some chatting nervously, others stretching in place, psyching themselves up. The queue for the certification test was long, winding its way toward the front where a large machine stood, the device used to measure the raw power of each applicant's strike. Without hesitation, Lu Sheng walked toward the back of the line and took his place in silence. He didn't draw attention to himself. He simply waited. The line moved slowly, but the atmosphere suddenly changed. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the hall. All heads turned as a massive figure approached. A man with a towering muscular frame, his skin taut with muscle. He wore nothing more than a tight white undershirt that clung to his bulk, emphasizing his strength. With an arrogant stride, he walked straight past the line, ignoring the disapproving murmurs and stunned expressions of the others. His name soon followed in hushed whispers. Zhao Chengfeng, a certified level 3 martial artist. Zhao's reputation preceded him. He was known for his brute strength and fierce temper. No one dared to stop him as he made his way directly to the front of the testing area, without a word. Zhao positioned himself in front of the impact testing machine. He took a deep breath, shifted his stance, and with a mighty roar, unleashed his punch. The force of the impact was tremendous. A deafening boom echoed throughout the hall, followed immediately by a blinding flash on the screen. The machine displayed the number 10,831 points. A collective gasp filled the room. But what came next shocked everyone even more. A massive shockwave blasted outward from the point of impact. Dust swirled, and the sheer force knocked dozens of people off their feet. The weaker applicants were thrown backward, tumbling over each other. Papers scattered. Cries of surprise rang out. And yet, as the dust settled, only 2 people remained. Standing Lu Shenggen, a young woman who had managed to brace herself. The crowd that had once filled the testing area was now either sprawled on the floor or retreating in shock. Amidst the silence, Lu Sheng stepped forward. Without fanfare or reaction to the chaos Zhao had caused, he calmly handed his completed certification form to the staff member, who still looked stunned by the scene that had just unfolded. Now it was Lu Sheng's turn. He stepped up to the same machine. His movement was steady, deliberate. The crowd, still recovering, turned to watch him. There was something quiet, yet commanding, about his presence. Lu Sheng raised his arm, focused, and launched his fist forward. But what happened next wasn't just another strong punch. It was something entirely different. The moment his fist moved, people noticed the technique. It was unlike anything they had seen. It carried a strange rhythm, an elegance mixed with terrifying power. The punch wasn't flashy, but it held a hidden force, something deep and ancient, something utterly foreign to modern martial arts. Everyone who witnessed it felt it. This wasn't an ordinary punch. This wasn't a technique taught in any dojo or academy they knew of. The staff, the applicants, even Zhao Chengfeng all stared, stunned, their minds trying to comprehend the form they had just seen. It wasn't just power that Lu Sheng had demonstrated. It was mastery, a punch shaped by a martial knowledge none of them could identify, but all instinctively respected. The chapter closes in that moment of stunned silence, with Lu Sheng standing before the machine, the impact of his strike still hanging in the air, and every gaze in the hall fixed on him. The young man who had quietly arrived, waited patiently, and now left everyone speechless. The testing hall of the Martial Arts Association fell into a deep, tense silence. All eyes were fixed on Lu Sheng, who had just delivered his strike to the certification machine. Moments later, the screen lit up with the result. 15,709 points. Gasps rippled through the crowd. It wasn't just an impressive number, it was unprecedented. So powerful was the force behind Lu Sheng's punch that the entire board behind the machine shattered, sending shards and splinters scattering onto the floor. People backed away instinctively, their faces a mix of awe and disbelief. The staff member in charge of overseeing the test stood frozen. For a moment, he didn't know what to do. This was far beyond the ordinary range for a Level 2 certification test. His hands trembled as he realized he wasn't qualified to judge something of this magnitude. Without saying a word, he suddenly turned and ran toward the upper floors, where the senior officials of the association were located. A decision of this scale needed the input of higher authorities. The crowd remained stunned. Then, unexpectedly, Zhao Changfeng, the muscular martial artist who had earlier caused a scene, stepped forward. His expression had shifted from arrogance to something else, respect. Without warning, Zhao extended his massive hand toward Lu Sheng. It was a gesture of acknowledgement, a handshake, a silent salute from one martial artist to another, recognizing strength when he saw it. This unexpected act triggered a wave of excitement through the room. Suddenly, the entire hall erupted into activity. Applicants and onlookers began surging forward, all eager to get closer to Lu Sheng. Voices overlapped. Some asked for his name, others offered their admiration. A few more enthusiastic ones even requested to take pictures with him, holding up their phones and snapping shots in quick succession. The calm, anonymous atmosphere Lu Sheng had entered into was gone. In its place was chaos, a swarm of attention that he hadn't wanted and didn't welcome. Realizing the situation was quickly getting out of hand, Lu Sheng did the only thing he could think of. He turned and ran. He dashed out of the testing hall and made his way outside, hoping to escape the crowd and avoid further attention. Outside the association building, 3 teenagers stood waiting near the steps. They chatted casually, unaware of the storm brewing inside. Among them was a girl, Lu Sheng's younger sister, accompanied by her 2 friends. She didn't know her brother had come to the association that day. In fact, she had no idea what he was doing there at all. Just then, another girl emerged from the building, the same young woman who had been standing beside Lu Sheng earlier during Zhou Chengfeng's shocking strike. She had managed to remain standing while others were knocked down. Her name was revealed now. Yang walked up to the group and began recounting what had just happened inside the hall. Her voice was animated, still colored with disbelief and excitement. She described the overwhelming power of the strike, the shocked crowd, the destruction of the testing board, and how the staff had rushed off to report to their superiors. When someone asked who was responsible for all of it, the punch, the broken machine, the chaos, Yang's answer was direct. It was Lu Sheng, she said. The words stunned Lu Sheng's sister. Her expression turned blank, her eyes wide with confusion and disbelief. She couldn't process what she had just heard. Her brother Lu Sheng, the quiet, reserved boy she thought she knew, the one who had never seemed extraordinary, had just performed a feat that shocked even Level 3 martial artists. It didn't make sense. She stood frozen, unable to speak. Meanwhile, Lu Sheng didn't return home right away. He left the area quietly, slipping away from the attention and choosing instead to continue his journey in the dream realm, the mysterious ancient world where he trained and grew stronger. Back in the dream world, Lu Sheng wandered among ancient ruins, shattered temples, broken monuments, and eerie silence. This place had once been home to powerful martial artists, their presence still lingering like ghosts among the stones. As he explored, he found more and more signs of destruction, not from age, but from battle. Fallen masters lay where they had once stood tall, and the lingering spiritual pressure in the air told Lu Shang that even those far stronger than himself had perished here. He was shocked. The monsters that roamed these lands were beyond ferocious. If such powerful figures had fallen here, what did that mean for him? And yet, instead of fear, Lu Shang felt his resolve harden. His path had become clearer. He would not settle for being just strong. He would climb to the very top, to the peak of all martial artists, where no beast, no man, and no force could ever threaten him again. Inside a spacious traditional study lined with ancient books and scrolls, Mr. Zhao Yu, the esteemed leader of the Martial Arts Association, sat calmly at his desk. The room was filled with the scent of aged ink and sandalwood, and the quiet scratch of a brush on paper echoed faintly. Mr. Zhao was engaged in one of his daily rituals, calligraphy, an art he found meditative, even sacred. He moved his brush slowly, each stroke measured, as though painting the philosophy of strength into every curve. A large wall screen to his left played a looping news broadcast coverage of the recent martial arts certification exam, though he appeared serene, his ears caught every detail. Outside the study, the atmosphere was tense. The building had erupted in a quiet storm, assistants running, phones ringing, urgent whispers bouncing off the polished floors. Then came the knock. His assistant, visibly flustered, entered the room clutching a tablet. "Sir, you need to see this," the assistant said, walking over and presenting the report. Mr. Zhao paused his brush. He looked at the tablet and saw the test result. A Level 2 applicant recorded a power output of 15,709 points. For a second, the room was still. Then the expression on Mr. Zhao's face changed completely. His composed, scholarly demeanor broke. His brush clattered onto the desk as he leaped to his feet, eyes wide with disbelief. Without warning, he grabbed his assistant into a tight hug, shaking him slightly with excitement. 15,000. For a Level 2, this isn't just talent, this is a miracle. The gears in his mind turned rapidly. Who was this boy? Where had he trained? What kind of monster was he hiding beneath that calm appearance? "I want to meet him," Mr. Zhao declared, without hesitation, immediately. Meanwhile, far from the association, another figure had also begun her search. Ni Shuang, a powerful and well-connected woman with her own influence in the martial arts world, had also caught wind of the anomaly. She had long been watching Lu Shang with interest, and now, with this explosive news, she could no longer sit still. She too began making arrangements to meet the boy before anyone else could win him over. When Lu Shang finally returned home, exhausted both from the certification chaos and his recent time in the dream realm, he did not expect to be greeted by guests. But as he opened the door to his modest home, he was stunned to find both Mr. Zhao Yu and Ni Shuang already waiting inside, seated across from each other, their presence filling the room with competing auras of authority. The tension between the two was palpable, though they wore polite smiles. The air crackled subtly, like swords drawn but not yet clashing. Lu Shang blinked, not entirely sure how to react. Ni Shuang spoke first. "Lu Shang, you've done something incredible. Your strength, it's exceptional. I've come with an offer, a chance to grow under my guidance. Safely. No need to risk yourself unnecessarily." Then Mr. Zhao stood. His voice was calm, but firm. "I won't waste your time with praise. You already know what you've accomplished. I'm here to offer you a place at our association's elite training camp, the front line. It won't be safe. In fact, it's extremely dangerous. But if it's true strength you seek, the kind that shapes legends, then that is where you need to be." The room fell silent. Ni Shuang frowned, clearly disapproving. "Xiao Yu, that camp is no place for someone still growing. He could die." But Lu Shang, standing in the center of it all, had already made up his mind. He looked toward Mr. Zhao and gave a small, respectful nod. "I'll go." Ni Shuang turned toward him, shocked. You're accepting," Lu Shang replied steadily. "I know it's dangerous, but if I want to protect what matters, if I want to rise above everyone else, I can't afford to take the safe path. I need strength, real strength." A flicker of emotion crossed Ni Shuang's face. She wanted to protest further, but saw the determination in his eyes. There was no changing his mind. Mr. Zhao gave a slight bow of acknowledgement. "Then prepare yourself. Training begins soon. This choice will shape your future." As the two guests departed, the house returned to quiet. but something had shifted. Lu Shang stood alone in his living room, but his heart burned with purpose. Ahead of him lay trials more brutal than anything he had yet faced, but that was exactly what he wanted. Not comfort, not recognition. Power. And he would walk into fire itself to get it. After Lu Shang's decisive choice to join the elite training camp under the Martial Arts Association, Mr. Zhao Yu stood tall with a sense of satisfaction. He looked at Lu Shang, his eyes sharp with both admiration and expectation. "I'll return in 2 days," he said. "Be ready. From that point forward, your life will no longer be the same." With that, Mr. Zhao turned and exited the house, his long coat trailing behind him. The door clicked shut softly, but the weight of his words lingered in the air. As the silence settled, Ni Shuang, who had remained behind, crossed her legs and leaned back slightly, her tone suddenly softer, her gaze more personal. "Well, if you've already chosen the difficult path," she said, her voice silky, "then at least allow me to offer you something else." Lu Shang tilted his head, wary but curious. "How about becoming a guest of honor at my family's establishment?" she offered, her smile elegant but suggestive. "No strings attached, just respect, resources, and recognition. You'd still have your freedom, and doors would open for you wherever you go." Lu Shang remained silent, processing her sudden change in approach. After a long moment, Ni Shuang let out a quiet laugh. "Think about it. The offer stands." With that, she, too, departed, leaving behind only the faint scent of perfume and the echo of quiet ambition. Later that evening, the house grew quiet once more, but within it, a warm, emotional scene began to unfold. Lu Shang sat across from his mother and father, both of whom wore expressions caught between confusion and pride. They had always known their son was intelligent, driven, but the events of the last 2 days had been overwhelming. Breaking the silence, Lu Shang spoke with calm reassurance. "You don't need to worry about me anymore." His mother frowned. "Slightly, Shenger. We're your parents." "Of course we'll worry," he smiled. "I mean it. From now on, I can take care of everything. I can make money, real money, enough to support us. You won't have to work so hard anymore." His father looked at him with a quiet pride that words couldn't fully express. Lu Shang's sudden strength, maturity, and clarity of purpose had become undeniable. "Just promise us you'll be careful," his father said softly. "I will." Lu Shang nodded. "But I need to walk this path." Elsewhere, far from the warmth of home, inside a sleek and clinical laboratory, Susu, one of the researchers at Xingshintang, was pacing in frustration, her brow furrowed as she tapped through security footage, training data, and archived martial arts profiles, still chasing one name. Lu Shang. She muttered to herself, clearly irritated. Where did he go? How does someone that strong just vanish? Her colleagues gave her concerned glances, but she ignored them. She had seen Lu Shang's performance once, and her curiosity had grown into something bordering on obsession. Then, as she scrolled through news headlines, her fingers froze. There, on a news screen, was a familiar face. Lu Shang. The headline read, Level 2 Martial Artist Shatters Records at Martial Association Exam, over 15,000 points. Susu's eyes widened. Her lips parted slightly, stunned into silence. So he's not just real, he's a monster. Meanwhile, Lu Shang had already begun preparing for the challenges ahead. He retreated to the mountains, away from city noise and distractions, where the air was thinner and cleaner. There, he pushed his body to the limit, sprinting across uneven terrain, scaling cliffs, plunging into cold rivers. He forged his physical endurance, honing the edge of his strength like a blade. But he wasn't just there to train. He also searched for medicinal herbs, wild plants rumored to grow in remote valleys, the kind used by martial artists to accelerate recovery or deepen internal energy. On one such search, Lu Shang came upon a small market stall at the base of the mountain trail. An old man with a long gray beard and wrinkled eyes sat behind a table covered with roots, leaves, and bundled herbs. Lu Shang picked up a dark green plant with jagged edges. "How much for this?" The old man squinted, then smiled slyly. "That one, very rare, very special. For you, just 300 credits. Lu Shang paused. He recognized the herb. He had studied it in the dream realm. It was common, low grade, worth perhaps 30 credits at most. The old man was lying. Still calm, Lu Shang set the herb down and looked the man in the eye. 300 credits. For something that grows in your backyard. The old man chuckled nervously, scratching his beard. "Ah, well, you've got a good eye, young man. For you, special discount. 80 credits. Lu Shang smirked, but said nothing. He simply turned and walked away, leaving the seller scrambling to call him back. Every step Lu Sheng took brought him closer to transformation. He knew now that power was not something granted, it had to be claimed with blood, effort, and resolve, and he was ready to pay the price. The morning mist still clung to the mountain path as Lu Sheng continued his trek, a modest satchel of medicinal herbs slung over his back. His movements were calm, composed, his breathing steady despite the steep terrain. But then, from behind the trees, a rustle broke the silence. Several figures emerged, a group of 5 men, rough in appearance, their eyes sharp with greed and cruelty. Their leader, a tall man with a scar running down his cheek, stepped forward and cracked his knuckles. Well, what do we have here? The man sneered. A little martial artist playing scavenger in the mountains. That bag looks heavy. Friend, why don't you share the wealth? Lu Sheng didn't respond. He simply stood still, his gaze cold and unreadable. The thugs laughed. Oh, not gonna talk. Think you're better than us, one of them shouted, stepping forward and reaching for Lu Sheng's shoulder. In an instant, Lu Sheng moved. A flash of motion, almost imperceptible, and the man found himself slammed to the ground, gasping, unable to rise. The others froze, their laughter instantly dying in their throats. Then Lu Sheng looked up, speaking for the first time. I don't like repeating myself. Take your hands off what doesn't belong to you. The leader's face twisted with fury, but before he could shout another order, Lu Sheng's eyes narrowed. A ripple of pressure radiated outward. Not ki, not magic, but raw presence, the kind that only came from true strength. Suddenly, they all dropped to their knees, sweat pouring from their faces. We're sorry. We didn't know who you were, they begged. One of them shakily held up a bundle of herbs. Please, take everything we have. Just don't kill us. Lu Sheng took the herbs silently, then walked away, leaving behind only shame and fear. 2 days later, the gates of the martial arts training camp stood tall and imposing, surrounded by high walls and guarded by armed personnel. The facility buzzed with activity as young martial artists from across the region gathered, each wearing the official Level 2 warrior badge pinned proudly on their chests. All except one. Lu Sheng walked in quietly, dressed plainly and without a badge. The other trainees quickly noticed. Hey, where's your badge? One of them asked, frowning. You think you're better than the rest of us? Lu Sheng ignored the remark and continued walking. A few others muttered behind him, annoyed by what they perceived as arrogance. Some snickered, probably forgot it at home, or maybe he just isn't qualified. But Lu Sheng didn't stop, didn't explain. He simply didn't care. Soon a voice echoed through the yard, calling the participants to assemble. The crowd gathered into formation, and the instructors led them into a large chamber inside the training facility. The moment the last person entered, the doors slammed shut, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. What's going on? Why did the doors close? The chatter grew louder. Anxiety spread. Then, with a loud click, the floor trembled. Suddenly, trapdoors beneath their feet flung open, and the trainees screamed as they plummeted into darkness. But not Lu Sheng. Even as the ground gave way beneath him, he remained perfectly calm, landing gracefully, his feet barely making a sound. Around him, a few others also managed to land on their feet, but most were sprawled out, groaning or confused. The room they had fallen into was a wide, circular chamber made of stone. The air was dense. Torches on the walls flickered to life, casting long shadows. Lu Sheng's eyes scanned the room sharply. He wasn't alarmed. He was analyzing. This place, it's a test, he murmured to himself, a filter to separate instinct from panic. As he walked forward, another voice rang out loud, cocky, and filled with disdain. Well, this is what happens when you let commoners into elite training. The speaker was a thin, smirking young man with gleaming shoes and slicked back hair. Lin Shouyu, a known troublemaker with high connections, and an ego to match. He sneered at the trainees who were still stumbling to their feet. Then his eyes landed on Lu Sheng. You especially. No badge, no presence. Just a quiet dog playing pretend. Lu Sheng slowly turned his head toward Lin Shouyu, meeting his gaze with cold disinterest. And then, he spoke. This is why beasts walk alone, and sheep huddle in groups. The words echoed through the chamber like a slap. For a moment, silence, then murmurs, whispers. Lin Shouyu's smirk faltered, but Lu Sheng had already turned his back and moved on, eyes focused forward. In this den of wolves, he had no intention of barking. He came to dominate. The chamber buzzed with tension. Lushengs.com but cutting words. This is why beasts walk alone, and sheep huddle in groups had struck like a blade across the pride of the gathered trainees. Their faces flushed red, fists clenched, whispers turning into curses. One by one, eyes full of anger and resentment turned to him. Some glared with challenge, others with jealousy. He's too arrogant. Who does he think he is? But Lu Sheng ignored them all, his footsteps slow and deliberate as he approached. The first trial chamber. Mounted on the wall, a voice called out through hidden speakers. Trial 1, Combat Efficiency. Objective: defeat all Level 2 mechanized combat dolls. Time limit: 10 minutes. As the stone doors slid open, Lu Sheng stepped in. The room was wide, with smooth metallic flooring and faintly glowing lights embedded in the walls. From several hidden compartments, dozens of mechanical dolls emerged. Tall, humanoid machines, glowing red eyes, reinforced limbs made for speed and destruction. Each one rated Level 2, matching the average combat strength of a certified martial artist. From the observation window above, other trainees watched and murmured, "There's no way he can handle that many alone. He's going to be crushed. Maybe. Now he'll learn some humility." But what happened next silenced them all. Without hesitation, Lu Sheng moved. His body blurred, swift, lethal, precise. In a blink, the first doll was reduced to scattered metal parts, then another. And another. His fists moved like hammers powered by thunder, his strikes surgically targeting joints, cores, and circuitry. Within moments, he had created a storm of destruction, a blur of mechanical limbs flying through the air. In under 2 minutes, every single doll lay motionless on the ground. Sparks flickered, smoke rose. Silence. From the viewing gallery, the onlookers stared wide-eyed. One of them gulped. What just happened? Even Lin Shouyu, who had been smirking in anticipation of Lu Sheng's failure, suddenly felt the need to prove himself. Gritting his teeth, he stepped up to the next station with an air of forced confidence. If he can do it, of course I can. But the moment he squared off against a single combat doll, it struck first a powerful blow to his chest. With a loud crack, Lin Shouyu was sent flying backwards like a rag doll, slamming into the wall and losing consciousness instantly. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Even the instructors nearby looked stunned. As others hesitated, not knowing whether to laugh or worry, Lu Sheng stood to the side, expression flat with boredom. "They're too weak," he muttered to himself. "This isn't training. It's playtime." Behind the observation glass, a group of instructors watched the scene unfold. Among them was a silver-haired woman in a sleek combat uniform, her sharp eyes analyzing every move. Xing Su, a battle-hardened warrior known for her ruthlessness and precision, stood with arms crossed. Beside her, lounging casually in a chair, was a man in a simple military jacket, Major Qin, known for his unorthodox ways and blunt honesty. "Anything promising this time?" he asked with a yawn, sipping his tea. Xing Su didn't respond immediately. Her gaze had locked onto one particular monitor feed. Then her eyes narrowed. "Look there," she said coolly. Major Qin leaned forward, and what he saw made him sit up straighter. The footage showed Lu Sheng standing calmly amid a field of broken dolls, his clothes untouched, not even breathing hard. "That kid," Major Qin muttered. "He destroyed all of them, without a scratch." Xing Su tapped the screen. "Even the guards are confused. The doll systems aren't just destroyed, they've been disabled." Methodically, he knew exactly where to hit. That's not brute strength, that's tactical mastery. A beat of silence passed between them. Then Qin chuckled, rubbing his chin. "Well, looks like we found the black tiger among these sheep." Xing Su's lips curled into the faintest hint of a smile. "Yes, let's see how far he can go." The shattered remains of mechanical dolls still sparked faintly as the trial chamber was cleared. Word had already spread among the trainees. Someone had effortlessly crushed the Level 2 combat trial. Whispers turned to awe. Ah turned to fear. Aush turned to fear. Entered the testing zone. One name echoed quietly among them. Lu Sheng. From among the crowd stepped a girl with piercing eyes and an unmistakable air of superiority. Her movements were graceful, honed as if born into martial brilliance. Her name, Shaolin, a prodigy, ranked top in theory, combat simulation, and technique at her academy. She approached the checkpoint. 2 armed instructors blocked the passage, their tone cold. Identification, trial clearance required. Before they could finish, Shaolin had already stepped past them, her footwork clean and silent like flowing water. With only a twist of her body and the flash of her palm, the security field flickered. "Bypassed entirely. Entry confirmed," muttered the stunned systems guard. Clearance, forced. From above, Lu Sheng, leaning quietly against a wall near the viewing window, watched out. Their eyes met. In that moment, Xia Lin froze. A wave of cold washed over her, not from the temperature, but from the strange, terrifying stillness in Lu Sheng's eyes. It was not hatred, not anger. It was nothing, a void, as if his gaze had seen death so often that life itself no longer impressed him. She took a step back instinctively. Her hands trembled. What is that? Feeling up before she could recover, an instructor stepped forward to correct her action. She panicked. Mistaking him for a threat, she struck him with full force, sending the man crashing into the wall. Gasps broke out from the staff. What the hell? Xia Lin, face red, realized her mistake too late. That's when Lu Sheng stepped forward, voice calm, but unmistakably firm. You overreacted. He was doing his job. His tone was neutral, but it echoed like a rebuke through the air. I'm Lu Sheng, he added simply. Xia Lin's eyes widened. She took another step back. He's the one who cleared the dolls with a glance. Up above in the control chamber, Xingsu continued, watching. Her eyes narrowed. Without warning, she stepped out of the command zone and descended to the arena floor. The air tensed as the silver-haired warrior approached Lu Sheng directly. No words, no greetings. She stood before him and released it. A crushing aura, a pressure of pure battle intent and cultivated energy. It pulsed like a wave of thunder, aiming to force him to his knees. Many others nearby stumbled or gasped, but Lu Sheng, he didn't even blink. Tada's breathing remained steady, his posture relaxed, his gaze unfazed. Xingzu's eyebrow twitched, just slightly. Then she nodded once and turned her back. Trial 1 passed, she announced. Later that evening, the cafeteria at the training camp buzzed with conversation. Long steel tables were lined with trays of hot, fragrant food, a rare luxury in most martial institutions. But tonight, the feast was grand. Sizzling meats, steamed dumplings, bowls of rice, spicy broths, and exotic fruits. Lu Sheng sat down, alone, and began eating. Eating. One tray after another disappeared before him, each meal devoured with mechanical efficiency. Onlookers stared in disbelief. That's his 5th serving. No, it's his 7th. Even the kitchen staff peeked out in amazement, whispering, does this guy have a bottomless stomach? But Lu Sheng just wiped his mouth and stood up seconds. Just then, a large shadow loomed over the room. A muscular figure easily twice the size of most trainees entered with heavy steps. Behind him walked a calm young man with a kind face. Yuan, another test participant. He walked over to Lu Sheng, raising a hand in casual greeting. I saw what you did in the trial. Impressive, Yuan said sincerely. I figured I should introduce myself before the next round. Lu Sheng gave a polite nod. Yuan pointed at the ranking board nearby. Each trial gives us points. Accumulate enough, and you qualify for graduation. An elite selection, the combat evaluation, survival trial, team synergy, they all count. Lu Sheng glanced briefly at the board. He wasn't interested in ranks. He was interested in strength. The list of current leading candidates appeared on the large monitor in the hall. Chao Yung, 11,200 PTS, Meng Jinhun, to 10,950. PTS Shaolin, 10,700 PTS, Lu Sheng, classified system anomaly. People whispered at the last name. Classified. What does that mean? Back in the corner of the hall, Shaolin turned and saw Lu Sheng again. Her eyes widened, her breath caught in her throat, her hand trembled slightly. Why? Why is he looking this way again? But Lu Sheng wasn't even looking at her, was already walking out of the cafeteria, silently, focused, ready for the next challenge, because to him, this was just the beginning. The cafeteria's warm air still lingered with the aroma of cooked meats and broths. Lu Sheng sat across from Yuan, the female trainee who had approached him earlier with a mix of curiosity and respect. Her demeanor was friendly, though with a cautious admiration. After witnessing what Lu Sheng had accomplished during the trials, they continued their conversation in low voices. Yuan excitedly recounting what she had heard from the inner circles of the trainees. There was another lunatic, she whispered, her tone half amused, half serious. Someone who went berserk during the trial and ended up destroying a section of the exam hall, even assaulted one of the instructors. Lu Sheng remained neutral, quietly listening as he sipped the remaining broth from his bowl. Yuan leaned in slightly, unaware of what was about to happen. Suddenly, 3 uniformed guards entered the cafeteria. Their presence drew attention immediately, and their eyes were fixed solely on Lu Shang. The room fell quiet. They approached his table and, without hostility, informed him that he was to follow them. They needed to ask a few questions. Yuan's expression shifted. Only then did she realize what she had just said moments before. Her eyes widened in disbelief and embarrassment as the implications hit her. The lunatic she had just spoken of was Lu Shang himself. She wanted to speak, to take back her words, but it was too late. Lu Shang stood up calmly, not a trace of emotion on his face, and followed the guards without protest. Inside the command room, the atmosphere was much heavier. She stood before him, arms crossed, her silver hair catching the sharp overhead lighting. The monitors behind her displayed broken machinery, shattered walls, and injured staff, all from the earlier combat test. Without raising her voice, she informed Lu Shang that his trial had resulted in significant collateral damage. His blows had not only disabled the machines, but wrecked structural integrity and shorted several circuits. While it had not technically broken any rules, it had thrown the camp's logistics into disarray. Lu Shang accepted her reprimand silently. There was no defense, only fact. Soon after, a camp-wide announcement was made. All candidates were to assemble in the central hall. The next phase of evaluation required that they hand in their trial point cards used to track their performance. Across multiple tests, the hall buzzed with motion as trainees lined up. Screens above displayed names and rankings in real time, updating as each candidate registered their data. When it was Lu Shang's turn to step forward, murmurs spread across the room. Many were still unsure about his true capabilities. Others doubted whether he had passed legitimately. Among the crowd, one voice rose in objection. Chao Yang, one of the highest-ranking participants, stepped out from the line. His jaw was tight, posture aggressive. He didn't trust the scores Lu Shang had obtained, scores that oddly were not fully displayed on the main board. That level of classification made him suspicious, or perhaps it threatened his pride. He accused Lu Shang of sabotage, claiming that the damage he had caused was part of a larger scheme to hide his lack of skill. And in front of everyone, he challenged Lu Shang to a demonstration. If Lu Shang truly had the strength that others whispered about, he should prove it now. Lu Shang did not argue. He stepped forward quietly, without resistance, and stood before Chao Yang, who prepared himself with a proud smirk. Muscles tensed. The crowd waited, tensed at then. Without warning, Lu Shang extended his finger and flicked. A single, casual flick of his finger struck Chao Yang's chest. The result was immediate and catastrophic. Chao Yang's body flew backwards at an angle, as if launched by a cannon. He crashed through the thick reinforced wall of the training hall, creating a massive crater of broken concrete and dust, before slumping unconscious to the ground. The room went completely silent. No one moved, not even the guards. Mouths hung open. Even those who had seen Lu Shang fight before had not expected this level of effortless power. It hadn't even been a punch, just a flick. Lu Shang stood calmly, brushing invisible dust from his sleeve before walking away. He had nothing to prove, and yet had proven more than enough. Xingsu, watching from above, narrowed her eyes. Her evaluation of Lu Shang had just risen several levels higher. Whatever he wasn't normal. Not anymore. And now, no one doubted it. The hall still echoed with silence after what had just occurred. Chao Yang, once one of the most confident and high-ranking participants, now lay embedded in the wall like a cracked statue. The crowd had not yet processed the sheer ease with which Lu Shang had sent him flying with just a flick. Gasps turned into stunned murmurs. Even the instructors who were overseeing the evaluations exchanged tense glances. A moment later, one of the senior instructors stepped forward. His tone now soft and respectful. He extended an offer to Lu Shang, an invitation for personal mentorship directly under the chief instructor. It was a rare privilege, one extended only to the most elite candidates in previous years. But Lu Shang's response surprised everyone. Without hesitation, he politely declined. "I'm going to sleep," he said. A wave of confusion swept through the hall. Sleep. A few trainees chuckled, thinking it was a sarcastic joke. Others scoffed, assuming Lu Shang was too arrogant to take the opportunity seriously. But no one truly understood the meaning behind his words. None of them knew about the realm Lu Shang entered when he closed his eyes. Later, in the instructor's command room, a conversation unfolded between the camp's senior staff. Several instructors recalled a past candidate, someone from a previous year who had also displayed overwhelming strength and arrogance. A youth who had crushed the competition with inhuman force. That trainee, like Lu Shang, had once defied logic and overwhelmed every challenge. Could he be like him? one instructor asked. Possibly stronger, another murmured. Meanwhile, Lu Sheng lay in his quarters, eyes closed, breathing steady, but he wasn't resting. He had once again entered the realm of dreams, the ancient battlefield that bridged 10,000 years of martial wisdom. In this world, Lu Sheng was not limited by the pace of physical training. Here, time flowed differently. Days, even weeks, could pass in mere moments of real-world time. Before him, hordes of zombies and monstrous entities emerged from the mist. With each confrontation, Lu Sheng moved faster, struck harder, and adapted more swiftly than ever before. This was his forge, his personal crucible of evolution. But tonight, Lu Sheng wasn't satisfied with repetition. He focused his energy inward, determined to break through to a higher plane of martial perception. His goal? To tap into the elusive visual technique realm, one of the most advanced forms of sensory and battlefield awareness, known to martial artists. The process was grueling. He pushed his consciousness, visualized every layer of enemy movement, predicted trajectories, calculated breath cycles, and anticipated feints before they were made. The world slowed. Lines of attack revealed themselves like glowing threads in the air. And then, it happened. A sudden flash, a breakthrough. His eyes opened within the dream, but now they saw differently. The battlefield wasn't chaos anymore. It was a structured rhythm of predictable motion. Lu Sheng had penetrated the first threshold of the visual realm. Even he was stunned by the clarity it brought. The technique granted him an upper hand, even against the tide of monstrous beings. He could now read the battlefield like a master reading a familiar book. He wasn't just reacting, he was controlling. When he paused, Lu Sheng summoned his status panel, the internal measure of his progress in this world. The numbers flickered, and then displayed. Stage martial artist. Tier 7, he stared at the number, a sense of satisfaction rising in his chest. Not long ago, Tier 7 had seemed distant, but now, he stood on its precipice, and he wasn't done yet. Not even close. He quickly began strategizing new routines, new ways to refine his efficiency. Luckily, the AI system that governed the dream realm provided him with simulations and data projections, helping him compare training routes and predict energy expenditure. With the aid of this silent guide, Lu Sheng began planning his next step toward mastery, not just to be the best in the training camp, but to ascend beyond any martial artist in the real world. Within the dream realm, Lu Sheng stood before a newly unlocked archive, one etched with ancient runes and pulsating with power. Divine radiance, underworld scripture. As he absorbed the contents of the archive, a surge of raw, almost divine, energy coursed through him. It wasn't just a technique, it was an entire system of cellular refinement, designed to activate dormant genes, stimulate every inch of the human body, and push physical and mental limits far beyond ordinary understanding. Each sentence held an oppressive brilliance, a density of knowledge far superior to anything he had read before. His body trembled not from fear, but from the sheer magnitude of its transformative potential. But with awe came questions. If humans in the future had access to such powerful techniques, why were they still defeated? Why were there still catastrophes? Lu Sheng's thoughts sharpened. He concluded, grimly, then the enemies must have been far stronger than I imagined. The monsters, the threats that came after 10,000 years of evolution, were clearly beyond the limits of comprehension, and even this divine technique might not be enough in the end. Back in the real world, a month passed at the training camp. One figure was rising rapidly, Xiaolin. With incredible speed and discipline, she had advanced far beyond her peers. Her performance caught the eyes of every instructor, and even Xingsu, known for her cold, measured praise, offered her acknowledgement. You've grown impressively, Xiaolin, she said, but something is still missing. There was a subtle hole of fear within Xiaolin's heart, a psychological scar that was holding her back from full potential. When asked to identify the source of her fear, Xiaolin fell silent. But in truth, she already knew. That day in the test room, the moment her eyes met Lu Sheng's gaze, she had felt something primal. It wasn't just intimidation. It was as if she stood before a predator, and she the prey. Xingsu advised her to confront that fear directly, even if she didn't yet know how. Meanwhile, murmurs about Lu Sheng spread through the camp like wildfire. Participants mocked him, claiming he was lazy, arrogant, and wasting his talent by sleeping through days of training. Even among the instructors, doubts began to take root. Perhaps he was a one-time spark, one murmured. Too undisciplined to last, another said. But Yuan, the sharp and observant female trainee who had once spoken with Lu Sheng, refused to believe the rumors. No, she whispered to herself, watching him from a distance. He's not sleeping, he's preparing. Her instincts told her that Lu Sheng was not wasting time, but rather doing something far beyond anyone's understanding. He simply operated in a world they couldn't see. Elsewhere on the training grounds, Chao Yang, still simmering from the humiliation he suffered at Lu Sheng's hands, attempted to reclaim his pride. He stepped onto the gravity training platform, where one could increase personal gravity to hone muscle and bone strength. Most participants couldn't even handle double gravity. Chao Yang went straight to 4 times normal gravity. His body strained and shook, sweat pouring as he roared to endure the pressure. A small crowd gathered, impressed by his perseverance. But even then, many of them found their eyes drifting toward the barracks, toward the quiet room where Lu Sheng lay asleep. Back in the dream world, Lu Sheng had begun applying the Divine Radiance underworld scripture. He visualized the structure of every muscle fiber, every strand of DNA, every latent potential within his cells. He restructured his breathing, channeling inner energy in precise waves through his nervous system. With this method, he accelerated regeneration, enhanced brain efficiency, and laid the foundation for bodily evolution far beyond the capabilities of modern martial artists. The pain was unbearable at first, as if each cell was being melted and REFORGED, but he endured it with calm resolve. He understood something most others didn't. While others train hours, I train lifetimes, and it was only the beginning.